Umkhonto wesizwe takes SABC to court over the use of the term GNU, Government of National Unity, stating that they should not be using that term as the Government of National Unity consists of all parties and not just selected parties. So there's a clip from Newsroom going into detail about this. Hello, welcome to Entertainment's Golo, and this is your girl, Missy. Please do like this video. If it's your first time here, please do subscribe to the channel, and if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for tuning in.
Yes, the MK party is back at the Johannesburg High Court today. They are challenging the use of the term Government of National Unity. So according to the affidavit that was filed by the former President Jacob Zuma, who now leads the Umkhonto wesizwe party, he argues that that term is not factual and it is incumbent for the SABC as a public broadcaster to basically use a term that is more realistic to describe this Government of National Unity. They are arguing that this is a coalition, a grand coalition government between the ANC as well as the Democratic Alliance, with a few other parties also being involved. They are arguing that the Government of National Unity is a government that is inclusive of all the parties that are represented in the national legislature. But according to him, his party, Umkhonto wesizwe party, which is one of the main parties, the third biggest party in terms of electoral support, is not a part of this Government of National Unity. So, which means that this term is factually incorrect. So that's why they're appearing here before the Johannesburg High Court to basically stop the SABC from using this term, Government of National Unity. We're still not sure whether the former President Jacob Zuma himself is going to be here in court, but we've seen a few of the Umkhonto wesizwe party members making their way to this court. We know that the SABC has also challenged the matter. They filed responding papers saying that they are entitled to use the term Government of National Unity, as this is the term that has been chosen by the 10 parties that are involved in this Government of National Unity, Masa.
Junior, do we know what kind of evidence the MK party will be putting forward as well to make it clear that, it isn't, in fact, a government of national unity? For instance, the DA's Helen Zille has been pretty vocal in media to call it a grand coalition between the DA and the ANC. So perhaps would they be using such public statements to bolster their arguments?
Indeed, Masa, we were speaking to one of the party members, Umkhonto wesizwe party members, before this crossing, and he was also mentioning the DA federal chairperson, Helen Zille, mentioning those comments made by her where she's argued that this is a grand coalition between the ANC and the DA. But also the MK party will be using the definition, the dictionary definition of the word of the phrase Government of National Unity, which basically means that it is a government that is formed in a time of war, usually between the parties that are all involved in the legislature or the main parties that are involved in that legislature. So they are arguing that not all the parties that are in this current legislature are part of this Government of National Unity. Only 10 parties that form part of the national legislature are part of the Grand Coalition, but not most of the parties, like your MK party as well as the EFF party, which is the third and fourth biggest parties, are not part of this coalition. So that's what they're going to be using to argue that this is not basically a Government of National Unity. It's a coalition between the ANC and the DA. But we know that there are some also within the ANC, which is the main founding member of this Government of National Unity, that are also arguing that it is not a GNU. So we are expecting that the Umkhonto wesizwe party, in their basically arguments, they are going to mention some of these incidences, including the DA leader, Helen Zille, the federal chair, Helen Zille, as well as some of the utterances that have been made by some of the ANC leaders, claiming that this is not a government of national unity. Those are some of the evidence that are going to be presented. But as we have already indicated, the SABC is set to also argue that they themselves have taken the phrase from the president, who upon announcing this, his cabinet, mentioned that this is a government of national unity when they do make their own case, Mas.
Junior, what do you think the ramifications could be should the MK party be successful in this bid, when you consider the public statements that have been made by, as we mentioned, the DA's Helen Zille, but also some leaders within the ANC itself, but also then bearing in mind the definition of a government of national unity, which you've just, quite succinctly outlined there. Should they then perhaps be successful in this case for the other media houses ourselves and other broadcasters, would the ramification be that we also can't use this term of a GNU?
The likelihood is that if they are successful, the court is going to declare the use of the term unlawful and unconstitutional, meaning that it's going to affect all the media houses. It's going to mean that the media, as well as the current government, the 7th administration, will have to find a different term basically to describe the kind of government that has been put together. It does not change the government itself because we know that that has been constituted and it is the 7th administration. So that is going to continue. It's just the name that is going to change. It might be called a grand coalition, as the Umkhonto weSizwe Party is expected wants it to be called. And this is per se mainly made basically to South Africans, so that South Africans will know what type of government the ANC has put itself into, and basically try and win support for the Umkhonto weSizwe Party, who are basically arguing that this is a coalition between the ANC and the Democratic Alliance. So they want South Africans to know that this is a marriage of understanding between the ANC and the Democratic Alliance, which has basically upset a lot of some of the ANC party members and ground forces who voted for the ANC, thinking that they will be the only governing party. But because they didn't get the necessary 50 plus 1%, they've had to go into this grand coalition with 10 other parties as well. But also, I'm sure the ANC, the MK, the SABC, it might allow other parties to come in, such as your ANC and other parties that are involved in this government of national unity. They might submit affidavits also to explain that it is not a marriage between just the ANC and the DA, but there are other parties, about 8 other parties that are also involved in this government of national unity, Mas.